Coming up this afternoon, graduates, unemployed nurses and midwives hit the streets in protest of government's failure to post them.
Also, the ZAR latest UNICEF report reveals Greater Accra and northern regions record highest number of children with dangerous levels of lead in their blood.
It's News Central, live on TV3. I'm Kemini Amanor.
And I am Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. Now, imagine spending 320 cedis on transportation, enduring 14 long hours on a bus to Accra, all because you want to stand with your fellow unemployed nurses and midwives to demand one simple thing: a job. That is the reality of Mumuni Basiru, an unemployed nurse who believed today will finally be the day where their voices were heard. But after weeks of planning and after going through every required process to legally stage a protest, the group received a last-minute text message from the Accra Regional Commander announcing that the protest must be postponed. The reason? An emergency international event by the Ministry of Health and what they describe as an order from above. So instead of marching, dozens of frustrated young nurses are stranded, disappointed, and unsure what comes next. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan is joining us right now with a bit more from the details from this planned graduate unemployed nurses' decision to hit the streets in protest against government's failure to post them. Crosby, thank you very much for joining us. Talk to us about this demonstration and the group and the demand they are seeking to put before government.
Right, Mawuena, so like you mentioned earlier, they are only asking for a job. These are people who have left various nursing schools, military schools in 2020. They have not been employed yet. That is the situation they are facing at the moment. What they are asking is that they be given jobs to do. They number over 50,000 from the various institutions in the country. They came and they gathered, a few of them gathered at the National Theatre. This is because of a planned demonstration. This demonstration has followed all the due process, if you like. They have notified the police within the specific time frame as the law mandates them to do. In fact, this 9th December date that they chose to demonstrate was a date recommended by the police service to them. But a day before the demonstration, they got a message, and they say the message is from the Accra Regional Police Command, telling them that due to an emergency meeting, they will have to halt the protest for another day. And they say that this is frustrating them a lot, Mawuena.
And we know the group could not exercise their right to demonstrate. Tell us a bit more about this and the frustration for them.
Mawuena, right. So just a few of them gathered at the National Theatre, numbering less than 15. And they planned this demonstration, notified the police, suggested routes to the police. The police, helped them fine-tune this whole demonstrating idea. This day, the 9th December date that they had planned to demonstrate, like I mentioned, was suggested to them by the police. Because it suggested an earlier date, the police said that date would not work, and the police recommended this date for them. They agreed on the date, they put together all their resources, began, communicating with their members to come in their numbers to the National Theatre so that finally their voice will be heard. So present petitions to the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance, and then to the Jubilee House. They submitted letters to these ministries of the Jubilee House that I've mentioned, indicating to them that on this day, I'm talking about today, the 9th of December, they will present petitions to them as part of the demonstration. They tell me that the letters were received, they followed up. They had all the indicators, the green lights, that there was no impediment whatsoever to this demonstrating. Now, the night before today, the night before 9th December, they get a text message, and they see the text message is from the Accra Regional Police Command. And the message is telling them that due to an emergency meeting, due to an emergency international event on today, Tuesday, the 9th of December 2025, at the Ministry of Health, the Chief of Staff, based on this information from the Chief of Staff, they, the nurses and the Midwives Association, from 2020 up until 2024, they are to postpone the special event and notify the police with a new date. They are angry because the police did not come with a court order, did not present them with an injunction from the court that should tell them that the process will not happen. They just sent them a text message and called them to tell them that due to this event, they cannot do this. And this is something they don't understand. They think they are being sabotaged. They think the health ministry is not thinking about them. They have families, they say. They have people who depend on them. They are breadwinners. They don't know what lies ahead of them. They don't know what their lives are turning into, because if you leave school after 4 years, you've not been employed, you renew your team every year in anticipating that the health ministry will do something for you, but it's not happening. And they are livid about what has happened today.
Let's listen to a number of them, share that frustration, and then we'll come to you again for a bit more in terms of what they've been saying and possibly what their next plans are as well. But let's listen to them, and then I come back to you.
From North, Ulensi Nanumba South. So I took off, that was on 7th dawn. I was still on the car when I hear my phone that the demonstration won't be coming again. Only to know that there's a call from that same regional police commander that we should hold the demonstration today and set another date for it. That there will be a meeting, and the news is also reaching him from above. I didn't know what to say again because I checked my way from Tamale to here. It's not a small journey. Sitting inside a car for like more than 12 hours is not an easy distance. So only to be told that you are going back again without doing anything. Disappointing.
How much did you spend from Tamale to Accra?
320 cedis.
So it means you would have to go back?
I have to go back again.
Same 320?
320 cedis.
Since you're unemployed, how long have you been home?
I've been in the house for 4 years. I completed 2021.
So how did you come about or come by the 320 cedis as your...
Once I hear the demonstration will be coming, I have to start gathering money. Little by little, 5 cedis, 20 cedis, 10 cedis, up till date.
So at the moment, what are you going to do, knowing that the demonstration has been halted?
We are all stranded because we have to go back again.
When do you plan on going back?
We don't know yet because no money to go back again.
So where are you going to?
We don't have anybody in Accra here.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask where you're going to live, how you're going to fend for yourself in Accra.
Unless I follow one of my friends to their house, those staying here. And living with someone or depending on someone is not easy. Even what Accra to drink is not easy. Example like how I am unemployed. My colleague too is unemployed. He is also depending on someone. So how will it be if we are going to depend on one person?
And Crosby, we've just been hearing from a few of them who came from as far as the northern part of the country to demonstrate. They've been speaking to this challenge and no real clear intent as to how they intend going back. For the group, what's the way forward for them?
Well, Mawuena, this is a major setback for them. This is taking them back a few steps. In their thinking, is like government does not care about them. Government has left them to their fate. So a major blow to them, regardless. But they say they are going to regroup and then re-strategize and come out with another plan that hopefully government will not, put impediments in their way, and they'll be able to voice out their concerns and get the necessary attention that they deserve. And this is exactly what they're saying, that this is something they did not see coming. Why sabotage them? Why restrict them? Why want to suck them up when you're treating them very badly, Mawuena?
Then Crosby, I'm sure we'll follow up on the subject matter and get a bit more in terms of the details. But that's my colleague, Noble Crosby Annan, for us from the regions of the health ministry. But we can bring you some other stories in relation to health and very concerning development in this latest report, Kemini.
That's right. Now, a new FDA UNICEF national survey has revealed that the Greater Accra and northern regions recorded the highest number of children with dangerous levels of lead in their bloodstreams. The report points to a major safety gap in Ghana's food and cosmetics market, citing high lead and cadmium contamination in products such as coal, also known as kaji kaji or koli, turmeric, and cereal mixes, all posing serious risks to child development and public health. Deputy CEO of the FDA, Roderick Kwabena Dade Ajay, wants the public to be on the lookout.
Heavy metals are, should I say, chemicals that when they get into us in small quantities, they can really have a terrible effect. It can be neurological, it can attack, it can cause cancer. It worries our children. What we say that they say, or the metal pots that we use, it's unfortunate you can't see with your eyes, but those that have been made with lead, you need to avoid. And that means that probably when you are buying, you should check with the people you are buying from that has lead been used. It might be a difficult answer to get, but if you could avoid it, why not leave it, And then we also, in the results, we're talking about ayilo or shri. Those from the north may call it farinkasa. Ayilo is not food. However, because of what has happened, the test that FDA did, we've been able to see that some contain it. Some Tom Brown that we also came across also were contaminated also in that same way. They should stop using them. The Food and Drug Authority with Standards Authority and state agencies would work with them.
Well, let's go deeper in this latest survey. Mawuena, what else are we learning?
Well, the latest is that some samples were taken from 16 markets in the 16 regions, and this is what we understand in terms of pouring into the data some of the food items which were identified, which has these high levels of contamination, lead, and we understand cadmium as well in this latest report put together by the Food and Drugs Authority as well as UNICEF. And so in these 16 regions and the 16 markets, we know that 16,000 plus samples were taken. We're just going to try and get a bit more in terms of the details from there for you. Just a bit of a challenge in terms of, but we can go onto the phone lines quickly and get some more from experts in relation to this, Kemini.
Absolutely. Let's have a quick chat with Dr. Emmanuel Termanting Amwa, who is health specialist at UNICEF. Doc, I appreciate your time with us, but when we go through the survey, we get a very worrying trend of lead and cadmium poisoning, plus mercury as well in this country. How does that come to be? Oh. It would appear that Dr. Termanting is not ready yet. When we do get him, we'll bring back the story. How about we take a quick break? We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Why are more and more professionals
in these items as well, even as we talk about how worrying the findings are?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. So, yeah, this work was led by the FDA, partnered with UNICEF to do this, based on work we've done earlier on that show that our children who are having elevated lead levels in their blood. And the issue of lead, which is a heavy metal, is that it does damage to the body organs, the kidneys, the brain, lungs, and other vital organs of the body. Children are mostly affected, and that is perhaps why UNICEF is also strongly interested in this. Pregnant women are also affected when they take this lead. Developing babies unborn would have the consequence, and by the time they are born, they have high lead levels, which can lead to brain impairment for the children, learning difficulties, speech problems, eyesight problems, and various developmental delays. The study that came has just isolated or found that lead is high in these products. And the next is to find out how they got into them. But for some of them, for example, when you take the kaji or the coal, there are different types. So some are made from stones that they grind, and apparently these stones are brought into the country or imported by those who use them. And most of these stones are almost 99 9 or 1% lead. They are lead ores. That means that the whole rock they are holding is lead. And so when they grind and they put it in the container and put it out on the market, what you are applying on your eyes is basically lead. And one would say, well, but there's no problem if it's around my eyes. But there are, from the eyes it can get into the body, and especially because these are applied to newborns and to babies when they are born. And so there is a cause of concern. And not all the coal or not all the kaji had the high lead levels. The report says that about 80%. So that means that about 20% of them did pass, the requirement. And question is, how do you know which of them is the right one, or which of them, failed? And that is the work that we are partnering with the FDA to take it a step further and bring some form of standardization to these products, so that when the other person goes to the market and you still want to use these products, you are going for those that have been specified. For the turmeric, again, not all of them. We have 42.1%, but that's almost 45%. And we know that some of the market people add lead chromate or add this substance, which is very colorful, so it gives it a very bright color, and it also adds to the bulk. That is, it makes it plenty or a lot. So they take few of the real turmeric, and then they add these things to make it more, and then to give it a very bright color. Ghana is not unique or alone in this. We know that other Asian countries, from where some of these products come, are also facing high lead levels in turmeric. And this is, again, a wake-up call for our regulators to now, be more stringent, do a lot of market survey to see which of the products are not fit to be on the market, and to properly brand and certify the turmeric that is wholesome, that people can go and buy. And let me say that this was not the turmeric root, but it was a powder that is already being displayed. The other one was the cereal mixes, that's the Tom Brown.
Yeah.
The lead in one was not as high as these two, but the worrying part was the cadmium. And one is wondering where the cadmium is coming from, whether it's from the soil, whether it's from the agri-chemicals that are being used to process, whether it is a milling of these corn and beans and groundnut.
Means what, Doc? We've not been able to identify whether or not, because as I was having you explain, I was thinking perhaps it's the milling process which is introducing cadmium, but also I haven't had to go through a number of reports from food from galamsey-riddled areas, you find out food from these areas has cadmium content in it. Could we be seeing the effect of galamsey moving from different parts of the country to, say, some of these markets where the milling process is just introducing some of the grains from these areas affected by galamsey with what we're seeing in this report?
It is difficult in this report to pinpoint exactly the sources of cadmium in this, but right as you said, from the literature, from what we know, contaminated soil through several industrial activities, through mining activities, through usage of agri-chemicals that are not properly scrutinized, all of these can introduce cadmium into the soil. And once it is in the soil, if you grow your corn there, it's going to go into it. If you grow your maize and your beans, it's going to go into it. And the milling process also is another area that could introduce lead and could also introduce other chemicals. And as a step forward on this work, I know the FDA is again partnering with us, trying to find out the sources, right from the soil to the crop to the product to the milling, before and after milling, does it make a difference? Where is it coming from? I think this is like a very first line of the puzzle. Now we know we have cadmium, and we found them then in these regions that have been mentioned, the eastern, the northeast, and western north. And so now we need to do further work. Why are we seeing this over here? But again, you know that in Ghana, goods move across the region. So today it is here, tomorrow, what is being produced from one region will end up in another region. So I think it is, we've just scratched the surface, and there's more work to be done to see where we are picking these things and to protect the public. And then the last one was also the law or the bentonite clay, which also found high levels of lead in them. Now, let me say that lead is a naturally occurring substance in the earth, so it is already in the soil, but through activities, industrial activities, mining, and clay, we know that a lot is made from clay itself, so it could be that it's from the clay that is mined, it could be also the processing, how people process it and how they work on it, that could also introduce lead into the product. So,
Doc.
The next big thing is to find out how are these things getting into the product so that regulations and proper
I appreciate you, Doc. I appreciate you for these sources. That's Dr. Emmanuel Amanor speaking to us this afternoon on the latest that was seen from the FDA and UNICEF. Obviously, it tells us there's a lot more work that ought to be done to get into these findings and for standardization in terms of the preparation of a number of these items. Most definitely a subject matter we will follow and bring you details of if you stay with us here on TV3.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama has announced plans to retool and modernize health facilities across the country as part of Ghana's contribution to Africa's health transformation agenda. The initiative, he said, aligns with continental priorities under Agenda 2063, Africa's new public health order. He was speaking at the WHX Leaders Africa Summit here in Accra.
Africa seeks a new paradigm of partnership, one that is defined not by dependency, but by co-investment, innovation, and shared values. So we call on vaccine manufacturers to partner with us to build African vaccine production hubs. We call on pharmaceutical companies to expand into biologics, generics, and essential medicine manufacturing in Africa. Diagnostics, innovators, biotech firms, and medical device producers to establish assembly plants, R&D centers, and fabrication facilities here in Africa. And DFIs, private equity firms, venture capital, and philanthropies to co-finance Africa's health industrialization. The conditions have never been more favorable. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers a unified market of about 1.3 billion. A growing innovation ecosystem is ready for acceleration. The African Medicines Agency is strengthening regulatory harmony, and most importantly, political will across the continent is very strong and aligned.
The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection has intervened in the case of 6-year-old Amina, who suffered severe domestic abuse at the hands of her guardian. The ministry met with her caretakers to oversee her well-being and ensure she receives the necessary support.
Amina sustained serious injuries to her private parts and thighs after her guardian allegedly pressed a hot metal against her as punishment for bedwetting. Counsel for the victim, Saratu Suleiman, says the child is responding well following surgery and is currently recovering.
Amina is recovering. Last week she had her operation, and then last Tuesday she went for dressing. And you know, when wound is healing, it itches, and as young as she is, she scratched and then the wound opened up or gaped. So she has to be sent to the theater for resuture. So now she has her bandages on. She's recovering as we speak.
Lawyer Clifford Annan Zuma emphasized that they will not relent until the perpetrator faces the full wrath of the law.
We are backing the prosecutors to do whatever that they're supposed to do so that justice can be done. Today I spoke to the prosecutor when I went to the court, and he rather gave me the new update that it is on the 16th that we are coming to court instead of the 12th. The 12th will just be an adjournment. So we are following this and we always come to court and see what will transpire in court.
To ascertain the welfare of the child, officials from the Ministry of Gender visited Amina's caretakers. The ministry pledged continuous follow-up and psychosocial support to aid her recovery.
We assure them of the ministry's commitment to ensuring that Amina will get full recovery and also be reintegrated. We're also looking at ensuring that we come to the aid of the mother who we heard is a perpetrator, to also give her some support so that she can gain grounds and also look after Amina.
The case against the accused guardian is scheduled to be heard on December 16, 2025.
Oh, there's more news ahead. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Accra.
Now, the minority in Parliament is calling for the immediate reversal of the recent utility tariff hike, describing it as insensitive. Addressing journalists, the ranking member on the Energy Committee, George Kwame Abuaje, says the proposed tariff hike reflects failed leadership and poor policy choices that will worsen the living standards of Ghanaians.
This year, you get $80 to $90 million losses. Why does the government ignore this reality and instead impose measures that further impoverish Ghanaians? Instead of fixing the system, the government has chosen the lazy path of shifting its failures onto already sovereign consumers. This will completely wipe out the meager 9% wage adjustment for 2026. Consequences, if the government does not listen to the call to withdraw the tariff hikes, they are going to cause: 1, escalating utility poverty, leaving more families unable to afford basic electricity. 2, collapse of SMEs, which form the backbone of our economy due to unbearable operating costs. We are already experiencing a teeming unemployment youth in the country. Job losses as industries scale down or shut down operations. 4, reduced productivity and competitiveness, further weakening the economy. And then
now, the Trade Union Congress is demanding an immediate suspension of the same tariff hike, warning the government to halt the move or face strong resistance from organized labor. Secretary General of TUC, Joshua Ansah, was addressing a news conference in Accra.
Last week, the PURC announced new tariff adjustments, 9.8% for electricity and 15.9% for water. The announcement has sparked anger among the TUC and its affiliate unions. Addressing a news conference in Accra, TUC Secretary General Joshua Ansah described the increases as insensitive and urged government to immediately suspend their implementation.
In the spirit of fairness and mutual respect for our social partnership, we demand that government suspends the announced tariff increases. Government and PURC should, as a matter of priority, immediately engage as agreed to exhaust the consultative process.
He warned that failure to act swiftly would provoke the full wrath of the TUC.
Leadership of TUC wishes to assure Ghanaian workers that it will resist any tariff increases that will erode the mega 9% government wage adjustment unless government comes back to the negotiation table to top up the 2026 wage adjustments.
The TUC Secretary General Joshua Ansah also called on government to review upward the recently announced base pay adjustment, insisting that the 9% increase is inadequate.
Why should workers pay for the new tariff increment come January 1, 2026, when their mega 9% pay adjustment will be paid at the end of January 2026? This obviously borders on insensitivity.
Well, let's take that onto the phone lines now and speak to PRO for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, Richmond Roxon, on the concerns of organized labor. Richmond, good afternoon to you. In response to organized labor, will we see the tariff adjustment reversed?
Good afternoon to you, and then good afternoon to your cherished viewers. First, let me put the matters into proper perspectives. That the PURC is an independent regulatory body. It is not subject to the control of any institution, even with the Energy Ministry or even the government of Ghana. And so they do their work independently. This process that they've currently engaged in is a major tariff review, which is done between 3 to 5 years. The last time this was done was September 2022, under the previous administration, where we saw tariffs go up by 27%. This time they've gone round, they've done their stakeholder engagement, they engaged all the utility players from ECG to suppliers. From the report, some had requested an increase of about 250%, others 300%, others 150%. But after the collation, after the engagement with all stakeholders, including TUC and the minority in Parliament, the PURC came to the conclusion that, in their estimation, 9% will be a fair increase to tariff. The major tariff review, basically what you look at will be that you look at the utilities and then their capital investments. Look at what they want to do. Normally, you concentrate on large-scale investment. You look at their expansion, how they want to modernize the state of their machines. You look at their capital expenditure as well, their long-term financial sustainability, and overall its impact on the sector. And so these are the factors that went into the review of the tariffs, the major tariffs. For us as government, we understand that generally nobody is pleased when it comes to increase in tariffs. I mean, it's just like levies and taxes. Once you bring that up, everyone is hesitant because everybody wants to always pay the low tariff. But we should be looking at how we can sustain the sector, how we can sustain the gains that have been made from January to now, the reforms that have been put in place, currently the stable power supply that we are experiencing as a result of the decisions and actions by the minister.
I see, Richmond. So bottom line, you're telling organized labor there will not be a review or a reversal of the tariff increment to take effect from January?
No, what we'll do as a government is that we will engage them. The PURC has done its work, it's done its announcement. The government will continue to engage TUC. We've started engagement already. We engage all the groups, all stakeholders to ensure that we come to an amicable resolution, including the PURC itself. And so, yes, it's a painful decision. It is necessary, but we will continue to engage. But as for the minority in Parliament, we are being truthful in this country. I'm not sure that when it comes to our sector, they will even have the moral right to even share an opinion. Because if you did 27% and someone is doing 9%, what moral right do you even have to criticize the person?
I see. But what organized labor is doing, and pretty much a number of Ghanaians are saying, is even this 9% could make the cost of living more expensive for them. Does the Energy Ministry care about that?
Absolutely, and that is why I mentioned that the ministry will continue to engage. And government hasn't shut the door when it comes to engaging. At all material times, the Energy Ministry, led by the minister from the beginning, has engaged stakeholders when it comes to all major decisions. And that is why even though PURC is independent, we're monitoring their work. We saw the engagement with these groups, and as a government, we'll continue to do the same to ensure that any issue that they have, those issues will be discussed, and then I'm sure that we'll find an amicable settlement to those issues.
Richmond, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Richmond Roxon is spokesperson for the Energy Ministry. We'll now take you across the regions.
Now, the NDC youth wing in the Nantong constituency are this afternoon demonstrating against the district chief executive for the area, Abdul Rahman Rosina Zainabu, over what they describe as gross incompetence of the affairs of the assembly. They have also been calling for the immediate removal of the DC from office. According to them, relieving her of her position will restore confidence among party members, traditional authority, and the public. Let's take you there right now. Christopher Marco is my colleague who is following through on this development. Christopher, it's been barely 2 weeks since the executive held a news conference, and I remember asking if the DC in question had responded to their claims. It does appear she didn't, and now they are out on the streets protesting?
Mawuena, exactly so, because the youth wing of the party are just rehashing the demands made by the executive committees barely some 2 weeks ago. For them, the gross incompetence of the DC in the management of the affairs of the district is what is necessitating this call for her immediate removal. They have cited instances of gross disrespect to traditional authorities and party people. The fact that she's using the assembly allegedly to perpetuate some issues of corruption in the district and at the assembly, and other allegations that the youth wing have leveled against her, and for that matter, calling for her removal. As it stands now, the DC is not in the office to respond to some of these allegations. We tried making contacts with her since 2 weeks ago when the
allegations were made
these allegations. We have not been able to establish contacts with her because getting access to her has proved futile, and so we are still trying to, but it's not easy getting access to her. The youth have also been commenting on the fact that she's not made herself available for party people and other people within the district to access her. Let's take a listen to what the youth have to say.
We never had a responsibility to protect the sanctity of the party of this principle of transparency, social justice, and accountability. The DC's administration, even as well as his man, has proved
for that poor quality in sound. But Chris, we see the military being deployed in the videos. Why the military? Is there a legitimate threat to the security of the area?
So, Mawuena, earlier on, the military were stationed at the National Assembly to ensure that the youth do not tamper with any property of the Assembly. Secondly, we all know that there is some level of insecurity in the Nanton area over the period. And so the military are already in the Nanton town, but they were staying at the Assembly to ensure that the youth in the exercise of their rights do not touch anything of the Assembly, because already staff of the Assembly were at post and also working.
Chris, thank you very much for those details. I'm sure we'll return to you subsequently for a bit more. That's my colleague Christopher Amwako from the Northern region.
Now, chiefs of Kwandai in the Northern region are opposing the ordered rerun of the constituency's parliamentary election. Traditional leaders fear that a rerun will spark chaos and jeopardize the peace of the area.
The chiefs, made up of Nauri, Chubrum, Konkoba, Kotokoli, Basari, Chokosi, and other sub-chiefs within the Kwandai traditional area, were firm in their demand. They want the Tamale High Court ruling on the Kwandai parliamentary election results set aside to allow the NPP's parliamentary candidate, Matthew Nyindam, to represent the people in parliament. According to them, the same election that produced President John Dramani Mahama also produced Matthew Nyindam, insisting that annulling part of the result is inconsistent and unfair.
We were informed that elections are won at the polling stations during the 2012 Supreme Court proceedings on the election petition. As chiefs, we are concerned about the potential consequences of a rerun, should it be upheld. If violence and vandalism at the collation center and the destruction of electoral materials by aggrieved individuals can lead to a rerun, undoubtedly we have a very good reason to say that it will definitely set a dangerous precedent for future elections in Kwandai.
Chief of Blajai, Nana Nkpejafo Nkpawiese II, warned that the situation in Kwandai is volatile and that a rerun could trigger serious conflict if President Mahama does not intervene.
We, the chiefs, respectfully are calling on the President and all stakeholders to ensure that The will of the people of Pandai constituency is duly respected regarding the 2024 parliamentary elections. And so we say no rerun in our constituency.
Meanwhile, both NPP and NDC parliamentary candidates are in the constituency, engaging their supporters. At the NPP constituency office, national executives led by General Secretary Justin Frimpong Kodua met supporters and called for calm. He insisted that the NDC candidate, Daniel Nsalawakpa, has no case, but is only attempting to intimidate the NPP's legitimately elected MP, a move he said the party will resist. For his part, embattled MP Matthew Nyindam expressed confidence in sustaining his victory, adding that any violence during the rerun will be met with equal resistance.
152 pictures in India. Yes, yeah, 152 pictures in India. But some may have been as a pass on the boy chronotia and the other day, then tears. Obia Kufia, Momo, Abisiama, and yet, say a passive at Traba. By the grace of God, Yamia Dumti, Matthew Messa for Parliament 2020.
Both parties await the final determination of the appeal challenging the Tamale High Court ruling on the constituency's disputed election results. Stanley Nibler, TV3 News, Pandai, Northern Region.
Well, we understand there's some news coming through from the quarters of ECOWAS, where they've been declaring a state of emergency over the entirety of the West African sub-region, all 11 member states. Remember yesterday we were walking you through some details where we said that 15 member state has reduced to 11 now. There's a declaration of a state of emergency over all of these 11 member states. As to what it means, we'll get you the details if you stay with us here on TV3. That's our bulletin for you. I am Mawuena Egbeta.
And I am Kemini Amanor. We're back here same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.